Hey, welcome back to the channel. If you go back through my videos, you'll find one where I got a cap given to me. My buddy Dave gave it to me, put it on my square body. I like it. It looks very nice, and especially in the winter, I think I'm really going to like having a cap. But this particular cap is not in the best of shape. The windows are broken, and it wasn't sealed very good to the box. So I got a lot of water in there when it rained, and when the snow melted, it would leak quite a bit. So I'm going to do a little sprucing up. Again, I'm not going to use the word restored because it's not that. I hope you'll find some of the content useful. I know my channel's all over. I'm into a lot of different things, so hopefully that means there's something here for everybody, not nothing here for not nobody. Nothing for everything for nobody. Hopefully you like the channel. Just click subscribe, please. If you remember, or if you watched the video, my problem was these blister windows they have, they're really kind of cool. You can't buy those anymore. I considered trying to figure out a way to vacuum form the plastic, but I'm just too lazy for that. So I'm gonna go ahead and just put some clear plexiglass panels in there. I had the local glass shop cut me out the pieces to the right size and the same thickness, so that's a pretty easy swap. I did find a place online that seemed like they sold these windows, but you couldn't order them online, and when I finally got around to calling and talking to them, they actually sent me to another place where they used to get them from. They don't make them anymore, and that guy assured me he was the last guy, as far as he knows, that was making those blister windows. So I guess they're not available anymore, and that's why I'm switching. They did have, you can buy by the roll this stuff that covers the screw heads, and this stuff here is the weather stripping that seals the top of this window. It's all dry and hardened up and broken, and I believe the same stuff does the bottom where the door seals to the tailgate. So I've got enough to do both sides and the back. I also at the local hardware just bought they actually just make camper seal, which is made just for running around the bottom of your cap so it seals to your truck. This place I bought these from had replacement hand cranks for the inside of these windows, and I just bought some clear exterior silicone. I'm just gonna, these heads, you can see the heads of these screws were all dabbed with silicone, probably right from the factory. I'm just gonna redo that, and then that should pretty much close it up. But in order to replace these, I've got to strip off all these things, take these strips off, and these vertical strips at least, probably the bottom one too, and get the windows out, get the new ones in. Then I can get it all back together, put all this new stuff on here. They didn't have colors, only black. This looks black, but really if you look close at the ends, you can see it actually used to be green, and it matched the windows. And my buddy Dave that gave me the cap said when he got it, it was on a green square body Chevy. So probably was pretty slick setup, when it was new. The cap, this used to be white, now it's just aluminum color. The white, any white that was left, pressure washed off when I cleaned it. But probably was pretty slick, the white cap with the green on a green truck. But its better days are past it now. So we're just gonna kind of try to get her weatherproofed up a little more, and I'll be happy with that. It's pretty slick, really. You can keep all your, I'm a guy that carries a lot of crap in his truck. When you drive a junk truck, you have to carry a lot of tools and some spare parts. And then I also, being in the fire service, I have a lot of gear I have to carry. Plus, I just like to have, I like to be ready for anything. So I have all sorts of stuff. And tonneau cover's okay, but I think I kind of like the cap better. So I think I'll be living the cap life once I get this thing so that the rain is at least slowed down. I'm going to dig into it here. It seems like a pretty simple thing, but probably isn't. We'll find out. Yeah, if you ever find yourself needing to remove this stuff, here's the trick. Well, I suppose this only works when it's all dried up and nasty like mine is, but you get your screwdriver in there and you just run it along, and it just kind of snaps and crackles and pops right out. So once that's out, you take your nut driver or socket and you most likely break all these screws off, and then we drill new holes and put new ones in. But with a little luck, maybe they'll come out. It's funny. Geez, I got this one off on the bottom over here, and look at it. It was full of ants. Look at them all. The whole thing, the whole length of it. Right chock full of my buddy Dave's ants. They're just sleepy. See, they're moving around yet. I'm gonna gather them up in a coffee can, take them back to Dave. I'm sure he must miss them. It's important to notice that these filler strips here are like, this one's tucked under that one. So even if you think, well, I only gotta take this one off, you're wrong. You gotta at least take the strip out of here and loosen this one to get the strip out of here. And that's the same here. This one's tucked under the front. So just bear in mind, if you think, well, all I have to do is take off one strip, it's probably not gonna be quite that simple. And I would recommend you buy enough of this stuff to do everything. Front, around the back there, and then, you know, both horizontals. The verticals take a different trim. They take this profile of trim, and I didn't get any. I didn't realize they were different. I guess I didn't look close enough. It just kind of clicks in there. It came out easy enough. I think I'll just put a little silicone on the ends and try to reuse the same trim. This weather stripping, if you're gonna change out the weather stripping, well, let me show you on this side. With the window out, you can see there's a real little slot right there, and they whack this one after they put it in to keep it from coming out. So you kind of got to pry this back open a little bit, but you pry it just a very little, and you can just grab the strip with vice grips and it slides out. On mine, at least, one end was bent over a lot more. Like that end was bent over a lot more than this end, so I loosened this end, pulled it out this way. I'll put the other one back in this way, and I'll just bend that back down, and I think that'll be good enough. I might put a dab of silicone in the end here if it seems like I need it. And if I have trouble getting it in there, I'll just use like some dish soap or something like that, just a little bit of something. I'm sure it'll slide in. It didn't come out all that hard. All right, I got her all stripped down. You ever get into a project and think, I don't know if I know how this goes back together? That's where I'm at right now. I had to take a grinder, grind off a lot of screws that were too rusty to get out. Now it's just a matter of putting it back together the right way. It's like a house roof. You put it together the right way, it can't leak. So I'll do that. I'll probably put big globs of silicone everywhere and hope that that helps, and it probably will. I got everything pretty much cleaned up. I'll do a little wire brushing here and there, and then we'll start throwing it back together. Maybe with a little luck. Yeah. Okay, well, battery died, but you get the gist of it. I got the new weather stripping on the top of the windows. And the old stuff did snap back in there. It seemed to hold up pretty good. The other stuff crumbled, but that stuff there seems to be better. And I got everything back together and all this stuff back in. It looks a little, it's got silicone, scattered everywhere. But it's been my experience that you're better to wait for the silicone to dry and then clean it up. And you'll notice I don't have these done yet. That's because I've still got to do the other side. And this piece has to go on last because it goes over these. And so once I get the other side done, I'll run this trim all the way on the front and the rear, and that'll be it. Honestly, probably a little bit ugly. Looks a bit like a greenhouse going down the road, I guess. I might see if I can get them tinted, maybe. I don't know. I don't think you can tint plastic, though. Those are acrylic or plexiglass or whatever you want to call them. I'm not sure that can be tinted, so it may have to stay the way it is, and you know, I won't hate it, but it would look better with a little more color. I think it's going to be pretty clear, pretty wide open looking, you know, but that's fine. So I'll get the other side apart and cleaned up and get her back together, and I'll show you what it looks like when it's all done. Okay, well, things have escalated here a little. I've decided, I guess I'm gonna spray paint the thing white again. This side's all stripped out, so there's no masking needed here except for, you know, top and bottom. So I wish I'd decided to do it when the other side was tore apart, but it's all back together and I'm not gonna take it apart. I'll just mask along this top rail and, you know, around here, because I gotta paint that, and same thing in the front. I got a mask around the door, but you know what? I think it's gonna be worth it, and like I said, at least this side I don't have to mask anything hardly, so that'll save me some messing around. I really wish I just decided to do it. You know, I could have stripped both sides all down and had almost no masking and been done with it, but it's not the way it's working out for me, as per the usual. So I've got it all scuffed with a scuffy pad and clean. Everything that I need to mask is clean enough. So I'll swing in tomorrow, get some primer and some paint and some masking tape, and I'll have at it. I think it'll look really a lot nicer, you know, than it would have if I just left it. So here we go. Things are snowballing. All right, I thought I'd stop right here and maybe I can actually give some helpful advice. It's not normally what I do, but I'm going to tell you this. What I learned from doing it on the other side and struggling, when I came to this side, put the bottom piece on, start these screws, leave them loose, but start, you know, a couple of these screws at least underneath the window. Set this window in and start a couple of these screws, and then run your silicone all around, great big blobs of clear silicone or whatever color silicone, not blue. Please don't use blue. And then you take your glass and you can slide it down until it bumps into the screws, and then you can slide it over till it bumps into the screws, and you've pretty much got it where it needs to be. You know, you don't have to fight with it that way and wonder, because when I did the other side, I put it in there, put the glass up against the silicone, and it was sliding all over, and then I tried to put these on, and then the glass was down so the screws wouldn't go in, so I had to, you know, slide it up and do it and all that stuff. You still make a disgusting, horrible silicone mess, or at least I do. I like making a big mess with silicone. That's how I know I've used enough. I've learned, don't try to clean that up until it cures. You know, let it vulcanize, and then you can just take your finger and peel that off. If you try to mess with it while it's wet, it's just a disaster. So go ahead and make your mess, leave it, come back the next day and clean it up. But the more important advice was, start a couple screws on the bottom, a couple screws on the side, everything super loose still, but you can slide it in, bump it against those screws, and you know that you won't be trying to run a screw through it later on. You know, you don't want to do that, because I use plexiglass, acrylic, which is pretty fragile. Not quite like glass, but still pretty fragile. If I had tried to run a screw and actually, you know, forced it into it, it most likely would have cracked right out across there. So that's not cool. So that's the advice. Same thing over here. Screws on the sides, screws on the bottom. You can bump the glass up to it, and then you can come in and screw this on and run all the rest of the screws in, and life is good. You don't have to fight with it. And you know it's down as far as it can go, so these screws should miss it, you know, and if it looks like they're not gonna, then I'll just move them up a little bit, and that's fine. Okay, that's that. Cap's all painted, looks pretty good. I'll get this all buttoned up and show you the end result. Yeah, almost forgot. One last piece of advice. I mentioned it earlier also when I talked about taking these off, but you'll see that I've got this tucked in and then finished screwing this on, and then the top is tucked under here, and then this piece will go over and hold that in. Right, the next step here is to do the bottom. You can see I started running the trim in the bottom, and that will tuck behind here. And then when I screw this piece on up here, this one will tuck in behind here also, and then this will cover and hold, you know, the top of this guy in. So you kind of got to do it in the right order. You got to think about what's going to hold the ends of what in place. And in this particular cap, it's the verticals first. Both ends get tucked in, and then I did the bottom. Now I'm going to do the top, and then I can run the covers in both of those horizontals, top and bottom, and I'll tuck the ends of those covers in on both ends, and then that trim will hold those so they can't go flapping in the wind or get water behind them or anything like that. I guess that's what it's for. That's the reason behind it. Well, I was gonna wait for the big reveal with it on my truck, but couple things. My truck is finally in the transmission shop getting fixed, and I didn't get enough of this stuff, this trim here, to cover the front and the rear pieces that go up over the top. So for now, let's just pretend that's in there, all right? Because everything else is pretty good. I got, so we got new trim along the bottom of the thing here, nice and flexible. The other one was just rock hard and crumbled. So that's where it seals to the tailgate. And the same trim goes here, like I showed you. We've got over the windows so that it can't leak. And then everything is siliconed up and put together and painted. I mean, I just painted it. I scuffed it with a scuffy pad, wiped it down with acetone, put a coat of primer on it, and a couple coats of white paint. I didn't take the time to, obviously, it doesn't really show in the camera that good, but, she's still doing that all the way down through, and there's dents, and I didn't do all that. It's not that. That's why I say it's not a restoration. All this trim, all I did was just cleaned it with Scotch-Brite, and then wiped it down with acetone so the tape would stick to it, really. But it looks nice. It's clean. It's a little bit shiny. If you were into it, certainly, you could take the time, and if you had a buffing wheel on a grinder, you could make that a mirror finish. It's nice stuff. And you could put some clear coat on it so it would stay that way, because this'll go away after a while. It'll oxidize, but I don't really care. It's good enough for what this is for. I'm going to use this thing. I don't need it to be a showpiece, but I can see how a guy could get kind of carried away with this and really make them super nice if you wanted to. That's not what this is. This ain't that. This is this. And there it is. Let's just Rust-Oleum white paint. It looks pretty darn good, I think. The screw heads on top, I just dabbed a little Hershey Kiss of silicone over each one. I might take a razor and trim them. I don't know, maybe not. Well, let's just face it, I'm not going to. But that, it's a blob, and it's sealed around so they can't leak around those screws. One thing that I noticed when I painted it was how bad the little pinholes were in it. I knew it had some, but I didn't know how bad they were. But what I did was you can see the ceiling in there is white. I bought some of that stuff and sprayed it in the bottom, and it's really thick, almost like undercoating, and a couple of coats, and it sealed all those they're all little tiny pinholes everywhere. When you crawled underneath here and looked up with the lights on, it was just like looking at the stars, which is pretty, but not that handy. So I just sprayed that stuff underneath, and I think it did a decent job. I don't know. We'll find out. So yeah, that's it. I'm gonna call it done. Even though I gotta get some more of this stuff here and get that on, and then when my truck gets back, I'll put it back on there. But you guys don't really care about that. the gist of it, you can see. And if you've been thinking about fixing up an old cap, I wouldn't be afraid of it. They're really pretty simple. The way they're put together is incredibly basic. I'm sure in future videos, if nothing else, you'll see it in the background on the truck if you're wondering what it looks like, or just put a little down in the comments and click on the old paper airplane and ask me to see it, and I'll show it to you once I get it on the truck. If you like any of what you see, if you like this sort of thing, my channel is a hodgepodge of everything. I'm not all car stuff. I'm not all outdoor stuff. I'm not all DIY stuff. I'm not all machine shop stuff. As the name implies, the Town Tinker, I like to tinker. So there's got to be something in there you like. Click subscribe, click the little bell, put the word down below in that thing, and then click the little paper airplane. Like I said, send it right to me. I'll get it and I'll answer it. I promise you, I'll read it, and if it needs an answer, I will answer it. Thanks for spending your time with me. I appreciate it. Make sure you tell your friends. They need to get on and watch the Town Tinker, and they need to click subscribe too. That's just how all this works. If they having trouble remembering, it's the Town Tinker. Kind of like the Village Idiot, but with spray paint. Hey, before I let you go, there was two things I forgot to mention on the video. First and foremost is, this week the automotive sports industry, I'm not sure what you want to call it. It's an interesting dynamic the way he played into it, but this week lost Ken Block. And I just wanted to say that that guy he inspired a lot of kids. And, you know, I'm sure there's people that say, well, he inspired them to do what? Do a donut in the parking lot? But you know what? Maybe he just showed them that, you know, you can accomplish great things. He's a guy that, I'm betting you, there wasn't too many days he didn't look forward to going to work. And really, that should be all of our goals, right? Kids could see that in him, that he was a guy who made a living doing what he wanted to do. And I think that's pretty inspiring for a young kid. And my hat's in my hand for his family and his close friends. I just wanted to mention that you know, that's a guy that's going to be missed. I loved his videos, unbelievable skills. Just wanted to say, I'm going to miss you, Ken. It was always a pleasure watching your stuff. Okay, so that's out of the way. The other thing was, I've got way too many projects to do. And I just thought I'd throw it out there, see if you guys had any opinions on what specifically you'd prefer to see me work on next, because I'm at a point where I've got a bunch of projects. None of them are really high priority type things. So I'm just going to throw it out there. I'm going to give you the list of what I got to work on or build or fix, and let you put in the comments what you think, what you'd like to see. If you're about to dive into one of the things that I'm going to work on and you're a little scared or whatever, well, maybe I can do it first and let me screw everything up, and you can learn from my mistakes. Without further ado, here's the list. I got a little Tykes cozy coupe that I'm going to build into a little tot rod. If you don't know what that is, you're probably not interested. I've compiled most of the parts for that, so I could start working on that anytime. I've got my lubester that sits in front of my shop that I could, there again, not restore, just fix up, you know. But that would kind of round out the front of my shop, so I'd like to have that done by spring because it's going to look really nice down there. I've got a four-wheeler. I got a Polaris four-wheeler that needs half shafts in the back and you know, some other work. It's kind of been neglected for years. I got this old safe that used to be my grandfather's, and I'm just going to kind of clean it up and get a coat of paint on it. And I thought maybe I'd see if my buddy Doc wanted to come over and do a little pinstriping on it for me. I've got my Kubota L48 you've seen before. That's got a wicked bad leak and a bad bearing in the right front wheel hub. I guess it's a pretty common problem. I'll probably do both sides while I'm at it. If you're, you know, they got the same daunting job in front of you, then like I said, maybe I can go first and you can see how that goes. I got a lot of miscellaneous things to do to my square body when it comes back from the transmission shop. No major work, just a little repairing and maintenance type stuff here and there. This is another one that I do need to have done by spring. I've got to build a stump grinder. I think I'm going to go with a 3-point hitch, hydraulic controls on it, and PTO driven. That'll be a real DIY project. I'm planning on using just a lot of junkyard stuff. You know, it's not going to be a fancy deal, so that might be interesting if some of you want a stump grinder but don't know how to go about it. I mean, I don't either, but we can figure it out. And the other thing is, if you watch my videos, you'll see that there was one where we cut the back off of an old Scout to make a bar. Well, now I've got the bar started before I have the space for it. So down cellar, I've got a bunch of work to do and to get some walls framed up and stuff, and we can turn our cellar into a family room or whatever you want to call it. So if you'd like to see that sort of thing, home improvement type work, there's electrical, there's plumbing, there's all sorts of things that need to be done. So I just wanted to throw that stuff out there. Maybe you don't care, but if you do, just put it in the comments and we'll go from there. And if nobody cares, I'll just pick something. That's fine. Just thought I'd throw it out there to you. Thanks again for watching. God bless you. God bless the United States of America.